The idea that one overtly excitable Homestuck fan was able to cause $700 in damages to a hotel bathroom and poison themselves is fascinating. But is it true? The linchpin of any fandom is the cosplayer. The dedication to their craft is incredibly admirable. They become the physical manifestation of a character in the real world. It is a craft that takes years to master, and one that makes you the physical representation of a fandom. For better or for worse, Homestuck at its peak in the early 2010s was filled with young, overly excited, and inexperienced fans. And it found itself on the wrong end of this coin. There's no better example for that than the specter haunting the fandom. So we might as well give a what is Homestuck for the uninitiated. Homestuck was a webcomic running from 2009 to 2016 created by Andrew Hussey. And it wasn't just a webcomic, it was one of the most creatively ambitious pieces of internet media at the time. It had interactive bits, flash games and animations, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And it dominated the web from 2010 to about 2013 or so. The fandom in particular went absolutely bonkers, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs even, for the trolls, these alien bug-like little characters which had gray skin. And that detail is very important for this story. The events that follow are hotly debated, but I feel there's no place better to tell it than the MS Paint Theater. So, via a recent reblog, I found out that the story of my friend's hotel room had circulated far and wide across the internet. May I just say that the story is completely true, and I was there to witness the bathroom. The post was made on /CGL, but neither of us circulated it back to Tumblr because we tend to not want to connect the two sites. I'll repost the story and then go into the details after. The story goes, as posted by my friend and experienced firsthand, room with friends for Anime Expo. They have few stragglers to make up for the last minute dropouts in the room. They don't know one of the girls too well, but they need the money. Girl is probably where the term ham beast originated, as well as a few other words. See, weeaboo Japanophile. We'll call her Terry. We get to the con Friday night, and Terry is 3 hours late. This wouldn't have mattered, but we had to pay a check-in, and she hadn't paid yet. Get settled in. She throws her stuff all over the room and proceeds to start yakking about her new favorite thing, Homestuck. As a forward, I don't mind Homestuck itself, but I hate the fandom. Saturday rolls around. Terry is cosplaying a troll from Homestuck. The one with the red eyes and the Libra symbol. She locks herself in the bathroom. I need to get to my troll makeup. Don't come in. 2 hours later, she still isn't done. There are 2 people in the room with Trinity Blood costumes, and myself and my friend have makeup that takes at least an hour to apply. Plus, we also need to shower. Not that our costumes automatically take priority, but 2 hours? Really? We notice a funny smell coming from the bathroom. Door is locked and she won't let us in. 15 minutes later, we start to get really suspicious. Fred decides to shimmy open the door. Her purse and valuables are in there and she needs to go. Get door open. Terry's sitting in the bathtub, naked. The bathtub is filled with almost halfway with what we later found out was 70% alcohol and Sharpie dye. Bottles and Sharpies everywhere. It's all over the walls, on the tile, and almost all of the towels, on several articles of clothing and bags in the bathroom. What she says? I was going to clean it up. Bitch, you tried to dye yourself gray in a bathtub. We kick her out of the room and she pays the $700 in damage fees. She gets skin poisoning / damage from her stupid stunt. Fucking Homestuck fans. That's the story as it was posted. To clarify, it was one of those situations where my friend needed the people in her room desperately because people had dropped out, and we all know how expensive hotels were. They had known the girl from a prior convention, and of course she seemed sane enough, but things went progressively downhill as the convention went on. People have been saying that one can't get ink poisoning from Sharpies. Well, you actually can. The other thing was she had used a mix of Sharpies and 70% alcohol to dye herself in. Along with alcohol poisoning, overexposure to the substances can produce various negative effects on the body. I was called about the situation and dropped by my friend's hotel as they were moving stuff out. The whole hotel room reeked of Sharpies and alcohol. There were handprints and streaks of gray/black Sharpie residue everywhere, and they had kept Terry there to take down to the hotel staff to report the incident and have her pay for the damages. So yeah, that's the story as it happened. I'll try to dig up the picture of the hotel bathroom if I can find it to post it up, because damn, shit was redonk. The moral of the story is to not be such a fucking idiot and think before you act. Or perhaps the moral of the story should be not to lie on the internet. These claims as wild as these need equally wild truths to back them up. Let's start with the first one. Is it possible to get alcohol poisoning from isopropyl alcohol or Sharpies? Well, if we look at a case report from 2000 by Leeper et al., it definitely is possible for that to happen. A clinical case is reported where a 48-year-old female is presented with multiple unexplained cardiac and neurological deficits. The woman had developed deficits over a 6-month period where she had been soaking towels with isopropyl alcohol and applying them to her skin overnight to ease arm pain she was experiencing. So, that part is plausible, and even then, in the case study, it was over 6 months, and this was over 2 hours, so a myth plausible. Plausible, but highly unlikely. Another point where I scratch my chin and go, it is the whole bathtub part. A standard bathtub holds about 80 gallons of water, and according to the story, the bathtub's filled halfway, so we can assume anywhere from 35 to 45 gallons if we want to be conservative with our estimates. Did no one notice this person bringing in 40 gallons of isopropyl alcohol and Sharpies to the bathroom? So this leads to two likely options. Option one, there wasn't a lot of alcohol used. Maybe like a couple of those bottles you can get like at a CVS or a Walgreens. But even then I feel like the alcohol would have been so diluted to the point where the whole hospitalization part couldn't happen. Or option two, there's barely any alcohol in the bathtub at all, but it's almost all alcohol. So you have a person rolling around in a bathtub like a 7-Eleven hot dog. I like to believe option two more just because that's the funnier option. Then of course, where's the photo? In the story, the author claims, I have a photo and I'll be posting it soon, like all truth tellers do. And yet, there's no photo to be found. I'm sure people can argue that since it was 2011, not everyone would have like a smartphone, so sure, maybe they didn't have a camera on them. But then again, these are con-goers, so I assume at least one of the 4 people would have a phone on them and they would, document this. We also know that this was during Anime Expo 2011, which was from July 1st to the 4th. And of course, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if someone caused $700 in damages because they dyed themselves gray in a bathtub at a hotel, I would assume at least one local news station in Los Angeles would report on that, especially since it was because of a person going to the largest anime convention in North America. And I looked through contemporary news articles from July 1st to July 30th, 2011. I gave some leeway just in case, and I could find nothing. No articles existed of a person committing damages to a hotel room. There's nothing. Nothing as simple as occupant of X hotel causes $700 in damages. There's just nothing, nada, zilch. And it's not like Anime Expo 2011 wasn't in the news. It was. On July 2nd, the bomb squad had to be called to Anime Expo because there was a suspicious crate that people worried that was a bomb, but it turned out to be a homeless person's cart. And that made the news. But a person fucking up a bathroom because they were trying to dye themselves gray didn't. Interesting. So, if we use our mind palaces to ponder all of the evidence given, it's pretty obvious that this probably didn't happen. But then, why is it so omnipresent in the cultural zeitgeist of Homestuck? Well, 2011 was a bit before cosplays and, well, fan culture became mainstream. And with Homestuck being one of the first truly internet native fandoms, a lot of its fans were younger and inexperienced. So we see cons putting rules in place for body paint because Homestuck fans were getting it everywhere. You have stories of people super gluing horns to their heads and, spitting into buckets at a restaurant. Homestuck at its peak in the 2010s just had a reputation. So that makes the story no different from Opa Homeless Style or Jack the Killer coming across as one that's totally real. Of course, a Homestuck fan would do something like that. It doesn't matter if the story was true or not. What matters is it felt true enough to people reading it that it confirmed their bias. It became true through repetition. It still gets passed around because it feels like something that totally could happen. And for someone wanting their biases to be confirmed, that's all they really need. Anyway, buckets, am I right?